If you're considering converting your traditional IRA to a Roth IRA, I'm going to share 5 reasons why you might not want to do that. I'm also going to cover something nobody's talking about now that Donald Trump is the president-elect, which could impact all IRA owners. Roth conversions have usually made sense if you expect it to be in a higher tax bracket during retirement. Some people assume that they'll be in a lower tax bracket in retirement. However, that might be hard if the tax rates outlined within the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act sunset as scheduled after 2025. If the current tax rates sunset at the end of 2025, the higher tax rates of 2017 would go back into effect in 2026. So if you have most of your retirement income in traditional 401ks or IRAs, understand that if you withdraw from those accounts after 2025, that you may be taxed at a higher rate than today. That's where Roth conversions can come into play. When converting funds from a traditional IRA to a Roth IRA, you're required to pay taxes on the conversion. Now, with Donald Trump coming into office again in 2025, most likely he's going to look to extend, if not permanently put in place, a lot of those tax and jobs cuts from 2020 or 2017. Let's do a quick refresher on what are Roth conversions. Basically, it's the process of converting pre-tax retirement account money into an after-tax Roth account. So keep in mind, it's a different account. You'll be actually transferring the money from a pre-tax over to the Roth account. So you'll have 2 different accounts. A lot of times, if you're fully transferring the money over, you'll just basically close down the old account once the money's moved over into the new Roth IRA. Now, we actually did this just recently with one of our accounts on Schwab. It was really simple, really fast, probably took about maybe 10, 15 minutes to do, but you do need to know that you actually do want to do it. You want to come prepared and be able to answer the questions like how much money you want to withhold, if any. These are all things that you should probably talk with your tax advisor about. But just knowing that the process is quite simple and fast, especially with some of the larger brokerages. Now let's talk about the benefits of converting to a Roth. There are no income or size limitations on Roth conversions. So basically, in order to open up a Roth account or to contribute to a Roth account, there are income limitations. But to do a conversion from a traditional IRA or 401k into a Roth, there are no income limitations and size limitations, meaning you could have $100 or $10 million. Hopefully you have $10 million. And there also are no RMD requirements, no required minimum distributions. So in a traditional IRA or 401k, upon retirement, you'll actually have to be taking out a certain portion every year called an RMD. There are no RMDs on a Roth IRA. And then also your heirs, if you were to pass away and give away your Roth IRA account to your heirs, they are tax-free as well. So a lot of benefits of a Roth IRA. Now, Roth conversions aren't for everyone, but for those that choose to make the conversion, they look forward to the future where distributions are tax-free. That's one of the main advantages. And it's really freeing to know that the money that you have in the account is what you'll be getting when you take the money out instead of having to calculate taxes. Now, let's talk about why you wouldn't want to convert to a Roth, starting with reason number 1, the tax hit. If the tax hit up front is going to be too much to handle or your taxable income this year is higher than normal, you may not want to do it this year. Remember, when you convert money to a Roth IRA, your taxable income for that year increases, which could bump you up into a higher tax bracket, making you pay more than you were expecting. Something to keep in mind is that you have the ability to break it up over the course of a few years if you want to do that. Some people call that chunking. You have the ability to look at your income taxes. And again, this is why it's important to talk with your tax advisor to determine where you are at, where you're expecting it, especially this time of year. The fourth quarter of the year allows you to look and see where's my income lining up, and is this going to bump me into the next bracket? And maybe we don't take the full amount, maybe we take a portion of it. Now let's talk about reason number 2. What if the U.S. income tax rate is less than today's tax rate when you retire? Also, let's talk about something that might sound a little crazy, but what if there's 0 income taxes when you retire? With Donald Trump taking office in 2025, there may be reason to believe that the United States won't have individual income taxes or that it could be substantially reduced by the time you retire. I recently heard a conversation where Howard Lutnick, who's the co-head of the Trump transition team and also really well known in the finance industry, and what their plan is to balance the budget while at the same time reducing income taxes to potentially zero. Here's a short clip from that conversation with Howard and Anthony Pompliano from the Pomp podcast.
So we're going to have a Department of the Interior person who's going to be the Department of Land and Mines, and let's go make money, right? We have our tariffs. Let's go make money. We have our procurement. Let's go and use our R&D to make money. Right?
I think if I watch just enough to be dangerous, you talking, Trump talking, JD talking, a couple of others, is there a world where we can eliminate income tax in this country by using tariffs and other means to replace all that tax revenue?
Once upon a time in the land called America.
Don't do it.
We were the richest country on earth, right? The turn of the century. We had no income tax. We had tariffs. We have this great economy. You want to come play here? Pay. It's like joining Costco. He's got to pay to come in. It's the best place to be. You should pay to come in.
After listening to Howard describe the options for reducing the debt, it started to make more sense that we could get to a point where income taxes are a thing of the past. What would happen to the taxes that you have already paid to convert to the Roth IRA if there are no income taxes in the future? Basically, you've paid taxes to convert it, to get it into this tax-advantaged account, and then there's no income taxes in the future. So interesting. I don't know. It's just one of those things to consider and think about. Call me crazy, but it is one of those things that came to mind when I heard that conversation. Now let's talk about reason number 3. You just don't have the cash to pay for the taxes on the conversion without dipping into the IRA funds. When you do the conversion, the taxes will be due at the tax filing deadline for that tax year, which is usually April 15th. If you use part of the IRA funds to pay for the taxes, then you'll be reducing the overall size of your account and potentially paying an early distribution penalty if you're under the age of 59 and a half. By reducing the size of the investment, you're now limiting the ability for it to grow over time because you're starting with a smaller amount of money that compounds over years. For example, if you had $100,000 which you were converting and you were in the 22% tax bracket, then you would owe approximately $20,000 for that tax year. If you need to pull that $20,000 out of the account to pay the taxes, then you would have approximately $80,000 left to grow versus that $100,000. Let's take a look at how that could impact the future value of that account. If you kept that $100,000 in the account and it compounded at 8% per year for the next 20 years, it would be worth approximately $466,000. Now let's see how much you'd have after 20 years if you started with $80,000 after using that $20,000 to pay taxes. Taking out that $20,000 would cost you nearly $95,000 in potential growth over that 20-year period of time. Reason number 4 why you might not want to convert to a Roth is if you plan to leave money to a charitable organization. The charity would not be required to pay the taxes on the balance of the donation. So if you convert your IRA to a Roth and pay taxes, it would mean you've paid taxes on something that didn't need to be taxed. This could impact the size of the donation as well. So when you turn 70 and a half, you become eligible to donate up to $105,000 directly from a traditional IRA to a qualified charity without it showing up on your tax return. This is called a qualified charitable distribution, or QCD. That's not the only benefit of doing a QCD. QCDs also count towards your RMD. I know there's all these acronyms, but the qualified charitable distribution and your required minimum distributions. So for example, let's say that you have $50,000 for an RMD coming up, but you plan to donate $30,000 this year to your favorite qualified charity. As long as you're 70 and a half or older, making $30,000 donation directly from your IRA won't show up on your tax return, and it will reduce your annual RMD to that $20,000 for that year. Reason number 5 is if you plan to move to a state that has no income tax or doesn't tax retirement income. There are 13 states that don't have state taxes or charge on retirement distributions. States like Florida, Texas, and Nevada don't have income taxes. In addition to the 9 states that don't have income taxes at all, 4 states don't tax retirement income. States like Illinois, Iowa, Mississippi, and Pennsylvania. If you take early distributions from your retirement accounts, then you could still be liable for the state taxes in those states. So basically, if you're planning to move from a state that has high income taxes like California, and you move to Florida where it has zero income tax, state income tax, you may want to make that decision before you convert to a Roth, basically paying taxes in California where you would have not been paying that tax in Florida. Keep in mind that once you do a Roth conversion, you can't go back. In the past, you could do a recharacterization if you changed your mind or made a mistake, but this is no longer an option. I actually used to work at Janus Capital, and I used to do recharacterizations on a daily basis. Basically, people would make mistakes. They weren't able or weren't eligible to do the conversion at that time, so we would be doing all the paperwork to do the recharacterization. That's no longer an option, so basically, you're stuck with it. It's a good idea to speak with a tax advisor to see how this would impact your taxes this year, and if it makes sense to break up the conversion into smaller chunks, like I mentioned, over the next few years, whether that's because of your tax rate is bumping you to the next bracket or whatever it might be. Roth IRAs are an incredible retirement account, but many don't understand their full potential. Learn how to unlock the full potential of a Roth IRA by watching this video next. Discover the untapped potential of your retirement account with a new asset class and 3 ways to invest depending on your experience and comfort level.